Hello and welcome to Let's Talk. Well, one of the things that I really enjoy doing when I travel and also to pass the time on some of these very long flights that I take, as in the one to Ghana, and when I went to Israel, and when I went to Kenya. Those are very long trips. Sometimes I'm on the plane for 10 hours. I think the longest I've done is 16 hours. So one of the things that I like to do is actually plan out how I'm going to spend my time, because I really hate being in that enclosed space for such a long time. So one of the things that I do is I usually plan out what movies I'm going to watch. So I'll pick about 2 or 3 movies that I want to watch. But I always download a book to take with me so that I can read on the plane to pass the time, because I love reading. I don't do it as much as I would like to, but being on the plane gives me a great opportunity to read. So this month I'm actually going to focus on some of the great reads that I've done on the plane as I've been traveling to some of these various places. So the first book that I want to talk to you about, that I'm going to focus this week on, is called Three Daughters. And the author's name, I'm going to actually look at it here. Her name is Consuelo Sa, and I believe it's pronounced Bear, Baehr, not sure. But anyway, I absolutely love this book. I love it so much that I actually read it twice, which I never do. No matter how much I love a book, I usually never read it twice, because I feel there's so many more books that I need to get in during my lifetime. So I try not to go back and read a book. But I really enjoyed this book, and because I'm focusing on some of the books, I actually went back and read it. So this book actually follows a family of 3 women over 3 generations. So it starts out in a small village in Israel, and the third young lady ends up in Georgetown, in Washington, D.C. Yep. And so it starts off with the one called Miriam. So her name is Miriam. And so Miriam comes of age at the beginning of the 20th century. And she actually fights against the constraints of the family traditions, but ends up having to succumb to them. One of the main problems, and one of the things that she pushed back the most on, was the prearranged marriage, which she was not for. But eventually she decided that her family knew what was best, and she ended up marrying the person that she was assigned to. And she actually ended up having a good life with him. She loved him, but there was a terrible war where he had to go away. And then she, during that time, had to figure out how to support herself and the rest of her children. And in the meantime, she ends up pregnant, spoiler alert, by somebody else, I will tell you, and raises this daughter when the husband comes back home as her husband's daughter. So that daughter then picks up, and her name is Nadia. Nadia is very headstrong, and Nadia gets a little bit more opportunities than Miriam had. So she has the opportunity to go to have an elite education, which of course then gives her more ideas of pushing back also against the prearranged marriage, which seems to be a common thread throughout the lives of the 3 women. And so she actually decides she is not going to marry with this the person that was prearranged for her. But in the end, she is tricked into marrying him. And she ends up actually having a great life with this person. She actually ends up loving him. And then she tries to have children also and start a family. But unfortunately, after several miscarriages, she ends up obtaining a child in an unlikely way. And I'm not going to spoil that for you. Go ahead and read the book. But she ends up having a daughter also, and her name is Nijme. I think I'm pronouncing that right, not sure. So anyway, Nijme actually ends up, trying to really please her parents, really please her dad. And her dad, he wants to train her to be very, very independent and train her to be, know how to fend for herself because this is his only daughter. He's very rich and he wants to be able to have her, take on this legacy that he leaves behind for her. But they still want to prearrange her marriage also. So she also fights against that. But in the end, because she loves her parents, especially her father, she goes ahead and she marries the person that they pre selected for her, but who turns out to be not so great a person. And she goes through a whole lot of different, a lot of turmoil. She ends up moving to America away from her family and her homeland, which she ends up missing. But anyway, in the end, she ends up kind of taking charge of her life, which I really admire about her. But anyway, again, I am I actually love historical fiction, and especially from other countries, because I love other cultures. I love reading about the cultures. So as you're as you're reading this book, you're gonna really kind of delve into the culture of Palestinian Israeli culture during the dawn of the 20th century. So it ends up being a great book. So it's a great read. I definitely would recommend it. So I hope you take the time to read it. So again, it's Three Daughters by Consuelo Saber. If you have the opportunity, pick it up and read it. It's a great read. You'll thank me for it. All right, so stay tuned for next time as we talk about another great book that I had the opportunity to read. Bye-bye.